You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. There's all sorts of different strategies out there for living a great life, building a great business. I think the best strategies have to take into consideration your strengths, the things you are good at, the things you are gifted at. And so I think anytime you're going to talk about marketing, media, strategy, building a business, it really needs to begin with what are you good at? What are your strengths? What are your superpowers? And fortunately for us, today's guest is all about helping you to figure that out. And she is seriously freaking awesome. And she believes you are freaking awesome too. In fact, she believes you were born to be amazing. Alissa Daire Nelson is regularly featured on television news segments, inside major blogs and publications, and on podcasts from all over the globe. She is an accomplished success coach, a speaker, and host of the Frickin Awesome Entrepreneur podcast, as well as the brand new podcast, Making the List. She's the author of the book, From Frustrated to Frickin Awesome, 4 Steps to Achieve the Success you are wired for. Alissa, you are freaking awesome, and you are working it. Welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Well, thanks, Ralph. You're freaking awesome too. And for those of you listening, in case you haven't heard it today, you are freaking awesome.
There you go. You've heard it from the expert. So,
That's
Alissa,
right.
You are a Strengths Finder coach or success coach using Strengths Finder as one of your modalities. Tell us a little bit about your background. What got you interested in coaching, and how did you stumble into the Strengths Finder modality?
Yeah, well, like many of us, I grew up thinking that I needed to be fixed. I grew up thinking that there was a lot that was wrong with me, and only occasionally were there things right with me. So I kind of did the first 30 years of my life like I was, quote, supposed to. Went and got a 4-year degree and started a successful career with that 4-year degree. I was a registered dietitian first time out of the gate. I got married. I bought a house. I had a couple kids. Like, those are all the things I was supposed to do. And yet at age 30, I was completely miserable and I couldn't figure out why. So what did I do? Well, I went back to school naturally and I became a registered nurse. So here I was with 2 healthcare related degrees, and I still wasn't quite happy. And in all of that, I felt like I was still doing everything wrong. And so went through a painful divorce, and that's when I was sort of pushed into some personal development, stumbled across the Strengths Finder profile, and it changed my life. And I'll tell you the reason why. So our limiting beliefs are so well ingrained. In fact, 95% of our lifelong beliefs are formed before the age of 7. I found that out after the fact, right?
Wow. They don't teach you that in kindergarten, do they?
No, they sure don't. And, so parents hearing that might think, oh my gosh, have I already ruined my kids? Because I remember when I learned that, my kids were like 6 and 7. And I thought, oh no, what have I done already?
It's too late.
But the thing is that our brain's job is to confirm our existing beliefs, not to break them. So you might hear 1,000 times, "You're great, you're wonderful, you're doing a great job. Wow, I see this awesome talent in you," etc. But all your brain will filter all of that out, and it will allow in the, "Oh, this is where I screwed up," right? Because it confirms that existing belief. So the StrengthsFinder profile was really transformative to me because 40 years of legitimate research went into the creation of this profile. It is statistically relevant. It is scientifically proven. Your mood doesn't matter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was very concrete. So it was enough concrete proof that there were things that were right with me, that it was able to start cracking that belief that everything was wrong with me. And once we start to crack those limiting beliefs, now we have a chance at breaking through them. And so that's what led me into entrepreneurship. It's what led me into coaching several years after that first foray into entrepreneurship. And why I believe it to be the best tool to use for with my clients. So that's the brief story about how I got into it all.
Sure. I love the Clifton Strengths Finder. I had to do that, and it really confirmed what I always thought was true. But what I like about Strengths Finder is it ranks your strengths. So it's not just okay, you're one thing and you're in this box, but it ranks the different amounts of things that you are. So it's really, there's unlimited possibilities of what someone could discover about themselves just in the various combinations.
Yeah, here's what's super interesting. Just by having the same top 5 as somebody else in that same order, the chances are 1 in 33 million.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not even including 6 through 34, right? To sort of have the exact same profile as somebody else. I mean, there's multiple commas.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So I think the lesson there is that all of us are unique. We don't have to spend a lot of time trying to be like somebody else, trying to emulate someone else. But we can really discover who we are, uncover our awesomeness, and just really rejoice in that and just be ourselves and not try and be an imitation of someone else that is really not our superpower.
That's right. That's right. And I think what's also really important to know is that your StrengthsFinder profile, while it's really, really important, isn't the entire picture either, right? We have our education. I already mentioned I've got 2 4-year degrees that I'm not using actively right now, but that education was not lost, right? My education and my life experience and my core values, those 3 things also contribute to make you not just 1 in 33 million or 1 in, whatever that you're all 34 would be the same as somebody else. You're the only person who could ever fill your shoes. The only person who's ever walked the earth that's like you, and the only person who ever will walk the earth that's like you. And when you can really begin to embrace that, not just cerebrally understand that, yeah, sure. I mean, every person's unique like a snowflake. Fine, whatever, right? Like we dismiss it and go, but this other person is better than I am, or this other person is doing this thing better than I am. And we get into this comparison mode. Call it imposter syndrome, call it, judgment, call it jealousy, call it whatever you want to. It exists, and it's really difficult to really hone in and own and grow who you are and what you are.
I love that. And look at it like this. If there's lots of cars, there are lots of automobiles in the world, and each of them have different levels of value. But if you only had one kind of car, like an antique car, and it's the only one of its kind, how much would that be worth? Millions, millions and millions, because it's unique, one of a kind. That's telling me that everyone is unique, everyone is special, and your value is priceless. But you just can't put a price tag on one person. The DNA of their experiences, their insights, their wisdom, their unique strengths. And I'm speaking to you, whoever's listening to this, the world needs you to step up and be yourself.
Yes. Yes. So true. It's so true.
How do you work with people? How do you get them to learn how to be amazing? How do you show them where their awesomeness lies?
Yeah. Well, we start with the strengths finder. That's the base. All my clients right out of the gate, they take that. And then I get to turn that into a personal owner's manual for them. So what that means is I get to show them what each of their strengths need in order to thrive, because our strengths have needs like humans need oxygen. So what are those things? When you're upset or frustrated or feel like you're suffocating, why is that? And a lot of the reason for that is because of the particular types of strengths you have or strength themes you have. It's also outlining what are the unique contributions that you can bring to the table because of the themes that you have, because of how you're wired. Now, what's interesting is we do things naturally, right? Our talents are our talents. So we just kind of do the things and we think that's no big deal. And something funny is that we also judge other people for not being able to do those things. Like, this is just like, of course, why aren't they doing that? Well, they have different strengths to bring to the table. And so the interesting thing is as you embrace your own, you also are able to give grace and to give honor to the people that are in your space because you start to see them differently as well. So we really look at the needs and the contributions, and then what happens when you don't know what else to do and you're not aware of your strengths, you're not aware of your triggers, and your strengths go into what I call overuse patterns, right? They're too much of a good thing. The radio has been turned up too loud, and now the rear view mirrors are shaking, right? And it no longer sounds good anymore. And so it's really about optimizing those strengths. So your strength themes and your strengths finder isn't a diagnostic tool. It's a jumpstart tool, right? And so how do we grow those to be even better and better and better? And so where our superpowers lie is where our skills, right, and our strengths come together, and it's that center of that Venn diagram, right? And as you begin to understand your strengths better and better, that circle, proverbial circle, sort of it expands, right? And so now you have even more and more strengths, and it's because you're optimizing your natural wired talents. So it really is a lot of self-awareness, and then it's defining what those things are so that you can truly walk out into the world, whether that's business, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your friends, with true confidence in who you are and being able to truly embrace who or what you're not, right? So rather than being this well-rounded individual, we're perfectly lopsided. So, this idea of a puzzle, right? So are you a puzzle guy, Ralph?
Yeah, I like to do puzzles when I've gone on vacation or something. And
yeah. Right? The puzzles are great because like the weird pieces fit into the other weird pieces and all of that, right? But if you were to take one of those weird pieces and go, well, this is a little funny, like I'm going to file this down, right? and you make it a well-rounded piece, like the puzzle doesn't fit together anymore.
Yeah.
And so being able to embrace that big foot that, that some puzzle pieces have, or that round knob that some puzzle pieces have, and go, what, I know this has a place in this puzzle, so I'm not going to wreck the piece by filing it down. I'm just going to find where it fits.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. That's a great illustration. I really love what you said earlier about once we understand who we are, it helps us to have grace for other people because we stop expecting other people to be like us.
Right.
And so that gives us freedom to be who we are. We're giving other people the freedom to be who they are. And theoretically, that means we should all fit together and work together. So let's apply this to teams when we're building a team for a business. How do we go about this process of making sure the pieces fit?
So I always recommend starting with core values, right? Because if you have a united purpose towards something, you're always going to be stronger because you have that united goal. And as you're bringing employees on, or honestly, this works the same for 1099s or consultants. Maybe you're hired a copywriter to help write your blogs, or maybe those kinds of things. Like, it's really important that they know what your business stands for, and you can share that. And if it's not aligned with what they stand for, they're not the right fit, and that's okay, because there's lots of other copywriters or virtual assistants or whatever role that you're filling in your business. There are more people out there. So just make sure that they align with your core values first and foremost. And then, as you're building your team, and this is a little bit more applicable when you're paying W-2 employees, right? But the fact of the matter is that people buy into that which they help create. So we have an epidemic in this country. 70% of all employees in the U.S. are actively disengaged in their work.
That's right.
So it means they might be showing up, but they're not showing up, right? And so they're collecting a check, but you're really getting just a sliver of what they could bring. And so by calling the entire team together, you're going to be able to start gathering the collective wisdom. And that takes humility as a leader to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but I see you and I see you and I see you. And I want to know what's working well for you, what's working well in this team. This is the goal we have. How can we get there? And as soon as you begin opening that conversation, people are like, oh my gosh, like my voice matters here. My input matters here. My strengths matter here.
And they just come alive at that point, don't they?
You got it. You got it. And it transforms cultures in a matter of days when you do that.
Excellent. Now, what about people who are listening and they're thinking, well, that's great if you have a corporate business or you have a business with employees, but I'm just a solopreneur. How does this apply to me?
Yeah. So, well, you can have this conversation with yourself, first of all. And I know that sounds really ridiculous, but are you aligned?
Probably a conversation we need to have. One of many we need to have with ourselves.
Because if we're not aligned, if our activities are not aligned with our vision, we're working against ourselves. And so having this conversation with yourself about, hey, what is the mission and vision of this business, and beginning to separate. And this is a thing for solo entrepreneurs, right? If a solo entrepreneur is the business, it's very difficult to separate the person from the business, right? Or the business is the baby, right? And so they protect it, and they don't make good decisions about the business because it's too close, right? So making a differentiation between, these are my core values, but these are the core values of the business. And now you can look at the situation, at the business from just a little bit of emotional distance, and that's really, really healthy. And this is where having a coach can really help, right? Having someone who is outside of your jar, who can actually read your label, because as the saying goes, you cannot read the label from inside the jar. A coach and a mastermind, some accountability partners, some people that you really trust in business. And, we probably don't have time to talk about the 5 people you surround yourself with, but make sure that they're people who get you and get what you're up to. Having been a nurse, I have a lot of friends that are still nurses, but I can't talk entrepreneurship with them because it's just a different world, right? They just don't understand the risk that you have to take and the passion for working, 40, 50 or more hours a week, for a not guaranteed paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Like they just don't understand it.
And that's okay that they don't understand it.
Yes.
You understand that they don't understand it, and everybody's cool with it. And instead of, trying to say, well, how come you don't start your own business like I did?
Exactly. And so we love each other and we get together and we hang out, but we don't, they don't ask me about my business. And at first that used to hurt my feelings, to be honest.
Right.
Cause I was like, they just don't care. And no, they just don't get it. And it's okay that they don't don't get it. But being able to separate yourself from your business and then ask yourself or ask your CEO, right? The question, how might we create something here that's going to work better, right? And so now you can start to think about, all right, I do need a VA, and these are the things I need a VA to do. I'm not thriving doing my own books. There's this blog writing is important. It shares my message, but it's not a place I thrive. So how can I best, delegate those things? And now we have a better conversation about where you're spending your time and energy instead of going, well, I got to do all the things, right?
And that's a recipe for burnout and failure and everything else. So I think it's important. What you're saying is very critical, that our listeners understand building a team doesn't mean hiring a lot of employees. It could be reaching out and getting contractors to do work, to delegate things that you don't want to do or that you're not good at doing or don't have time to do, don't need to do, but they still need to get done. So if you're not doing them, someone needs to do them. They just need to get done so that you can get through the day and do the things that you have to do in your business. But then the coaching support, having someone that can give you that objective outside encouragement, feedback, just to get a feedback loop. So don't get into this idea that, well, I'm just a one-man show. And if that is the way you're operating right now, you got a bigger problem, because now you get tunnel vision. And as Alissa is saying, you can't read the label from inside the jar. So go get support from someplace. Go get feedback from somewhere. But it needs to be people who get you, who understand your strengths, who understand what you're trying to do. And Alissa, that's really what you are good at. How could someone work with you and really improve their chances for success?
Well, I'm a little bit different than most coaches. I don't do discovery sessions. I don't do let's just sit down and let's dive into all the problems you have in your business. The whole sales process is not my favorite thing. So I don't do it.
There you go.
What I do really, really well is I coach. And so if people want to reach out to me, and we can share an email back and forth, and we discover whether, let's sit down and have a coaching session, because we're going to spend an hour either way. We might as well dive in and let's do a coaching session and just see how that feels. And by the time we're finished with that, we all know, is it a good fit? Is it not? Is there something here we can work on? Is there not? And no matter what, I get to do the thing that I love most, which is coach, and they get great value. And so that's how I run my business. So, I mean, that's a little insight to how I've kind of figured out some of the things that I don't like to do, and how can I, quote, delegate those things, or how can I remove them? So I remove the sales process. It's not my favorite thing. And so I just don't do it. So that's how they can get a hold of me, is they can go to my website, or they can email me directly, actually, Alissa@darettosucceed.com. And Dare is spelled like my name, not like you would normally expect. So it's ALISSA@DAIRE2succeed.com.
Perfect. And that website is daretosucceed.com, DAIRE, and the number 2succeed.com. We'll have that link on the website so people can click right through as they are listening to the episode. Fabulous. Alissa, what are you working on right now that's got you really excited that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm working on quite a few things, but I'm starting a couple of group coaching cohorts in January. So that's super exciting. The group coaching atmosphere is a little bit different than one-on-one coaching, but it also builds in community. And so I'm really thrilled to be adding that to my repertoire of services. So that's something really exciting that I'm working on right now.
Very, very cool. Everything you're doing is freaking awesome. Or frickin' awesome. I'm not sure. Maybe there's
I'm
an
from
accent.
Minnesota, so we say frickin' here instead of freaking, but either way.
Frickin', it's awesome one way or the other. This has really been educational, Alissa, and I think it really encourages me, as well as anyone who's listening, to just be yourself, relax, take a chill pill, let your awesomeness come through, and you've got some really great tools and ideas that help people to do that. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave our listeners with as kind of a takeaway?
Yeah, there's two really quick things. Number one is that your light shining brightly will never detract from somebody else's light. It only adds to the light. So don't feel ashamed or timid to let your light shine brightly, because it doesn't take away from anybody else's. And the second thing is that confidence and arrogance are not the same thing. And I think that's really important, because some of us who are humble don't want to, sort of be too big for our britches. And so we tend to think, well, if I say that I'm great, won't people think that I'm arrogant? And the difference between arrogance and confidence is arrogance is thinking that what you don't know doesn't matter. So stay curious and be confident.
I love that. Excellent words of wisdom from Alissa Daire Nelson. She is an accomplished success coach, speaker, host of the Frickin Awesome Entrepreneur podcast, as well as the brand new podcast, Making the List. And she is the author of the book, From Frustrated to Frickin Awesome, 4 Steps to Achieve the Success You're Wired For. If you want to find out more, click on that link, daretosucceed.com. It's DAIRE, 2, succeed.com. Alissa, this has been frickin' awesome. Thank you so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Ralph.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.